7 Republican candidates faced the litmus test in California as they took part in the second Republican presidential debate. However, former U.S. President Donald Trump, the front-runner, snubbed the debate yet again. Now, candidates traded barbs at each other as they shared the stage. They also appeared to ramp up their attacks as Donald Trump as they took jibe at his presence. Now, the first Republican debate, which happened last month, has reportedly benefited a handful of candidates. While it was dominated by businessman turned politician Vivek Ramaswamy, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has drew the most support since the debate.
I think unquestioned.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump tried to woo protesting auto workers in Michigan as he made a visit to the picket lines to gather support from the blue-collar workforce. During his speech, Trump repeated his recent attacks on the Biden administration and their push for electric vehicles, which could drive them out of job. Now, Trump's visit comes a day after Joe Biden spoke to striking United Auto Workers members, and Biden's historic appearance was the first time that a sitting president has walked a picket line. The decision by both Trump and Biden to show their support for the striking workers highlights the importance both men place on securing support from working-class votes. U.S. soldier Travis King, who crossed the border from South Korea to the north in July, has been freed by Pyongyang. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said in a statement that U.S. officials have secured the return of Private Travis King from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And as per officials, he is now in U.S. custody and has landed at a military base in Texas. This comes hours after North Korea announced its decision to expel King from the country after completing its investigation. Now, the 23-year-old soldier left through China before being handed over to U.S. custody. The White House thanked Beijing, allowing a safe passage for the U.S. soldier. U.S. Senator Bob Menendez pleaded not guilty to 3 federal charges stemming from an alleged bribery scheme. Menendez is accused of accepting gold bars and hundreds and thousands of dollars in cash in exchange for using his influence to aid Egypt's government. He is also accused of interfering with law enforcement investigations of the businessman. Menendez has been released on a $100,000 bond and had to surrender his passport. The senator has pledged to remain in his role as the senator representing New Jersey, although he had to step down as the chairperson of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Emotional scenes unfolded on the U.S. side of the border with Mexico as migrants came to shore after braving the currents of the Rio Grande that runs along Texas. With groups of migrants as large as 2,000 attempting to cross into the U.S. Border Patrol are actively engaged in trying to manage the influx. Just last week, Texas officials signed an emergency declaration to seek funding for additional services. The dramatic surge of migrants along the U.S. southern border marks a turning point after illegal migration had plummeted in recent months. Many perceive that this could be a turning point for next year's presidential elections. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has offered unreserved apologies in the Parliament for the deeply embarrassing Nazigate scandal. Now, Trudeau's apology comes following the Canadian Parliament honouring a Nazi veteran during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit last week. Now, Canada's House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota had earlier resigned over the incident. taking full responsibility of what he termed a quote-unquote oversight. 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka was invited to the Canadian Parliament last Friday, where he was cheered as a hero by the lawmakers. This as Trudeau and Zelensky clapped all along. The Thai Prime Minister is in Cambodia for an official visit. He met his counterpart and attended the handover ceremony of a Thailand-funded Centre for Victims of Human Trafficking. Now, this is the Thai Prime Minister's first top-level bilateral trip overseas as Prime Minister and after being sworn in earlier on September 5th. According to officials, the two leaders are expected to discuss economic cooperation and increase of mutual trade volume to $15 billion by the year 2025. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met British Defence Secretary Grant Shapps in Kiev. Now, the two chaired discussions on Ukraine's air and ground defence abilities. Just this year, Britain has supplied Storm Shadow cruise missiles that have allowed Ukraine to conduct long-range strikes on targets in Russian-occupied territory. Ukraine's intelligence chief and Britain's chief of defence staff were also present at the meeting. One person was killed and another was left injured after artillery fire hit a residential building in the Russian-controlled city of Donetsk. According to reports, the third floor of the building was heavily damaged in the shelling. The city of Donetsk has been under Russian control since 2014. However, Ukrainian troops continue to hold positions on its outskirts and the city regularly comes under artillery fire. Donetsk is one of 4 regions of Ukraine that Russia partly occupies and claimed as its own last year. This move has been condemned by most countries at the United Nations General Assembly. Taiwan has unveiled its first indigenous submarine, Haikun. The president, Tsai Ing-wen, presided over the launch ceremony in the port city of Kaohsiung. The new submarine has been launched amid soaring tensions with China, which has vowed to annex the self-ruled democratic island even if force is required. However, most observers believe that China will not attack the island imminently. This as Beijing maintains it seeks peaceful quote-unquote reunification. With Taiwan and the $1.5 billion diesel-electric submarines will undergo several tests before it's delivered to the Navy by the end of 2024. Taiwanese president has also expressed that safeguarding a free and open Indo-Pacific region is a shared goal between Taiwan and Australia. In a meeting with Australian lawmakers visiting Taipei, Tsai Ing-wen emphasized the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwanese Strait. Tsai also called on Australia to support its bid to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Taiwan and China both applied in 2021 to join the landmark trade pact that includes 11 countries. However, China continues to oppose Taiwan's addition, which it claims as its own territory. The US government has announced that it is admitting Israel into a program that will allow visa-free entry by Israeli citizens starting this November 30th. Palestinian Americans living in the West Bank or living in the US now can enter Israel visa-free and fly in and out of Ben Gurion Airport, reducing barriers to travel for these Americans. Now, some Palestinians have protested against Israel's entry into the program, saying that Israel for decades has discriminated against Arab Americans and harassed them at its borders. However, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the decision as a significant and joyous moment for all Israeli citizens. Israel has reopened crossing points with Gaza, allowing thousands of Palestinian workers to get to their jobs in Israel and the West Bank. Now, this development comes after nearly 2 weeks of closure prompted by violent protests along the border. Around 18,000 Gazans have permits from Israeli authorities to work outside the blockaded enclave. Now, the move comes amid stepped-up international efforts by Egypt and the United Nations to diffuse tensions and prevent a new round of armed conflict in the region. Desperate to go back to their jobs, workers began to flock to the Palestinian side of the crossing soon after Israel made the announcement. Five members of an Arab family were shot dead in their homes in Israel. Now, this is the latest in a wave of crime-related killings in Israel's Arab communities that has reached a new peak this year. More than 180 Arab citizens in Israel have been killed in crime-related violence since January, which is a 7-year high. The killings that have continued unchecked, drawing accusations that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's religious nationalist government has been ignoring the bloodshed. Arab citizens say that the collapse of personal safety in their communities must receive more government and international attention. A former head of the breakaway ethnic Armenian government in Nagorno-Karabakh region has been arrested by Azerbaijan as he tried to escape into Armenia as part of the ongoing exodus. Ruben Vardanyan headed Karabakh separatist government between November of 2022 and February 2023. Azerbaijan's border service said that he had been taken to the capital Baku and handed over to other state agencies. Now, this comes as many ethnic Armenians are fleeing and abandoning their homes as accusations of ethnic cleansing have provoked widespread international alarm. However, Azerbaijan has rejected such claims. Karabakh authorities said that more than 50,000 people have fled the region so far. At least one person has been killed and over 160 injured by a powerful explosion at a warehouse near Tashkent airport. The explosion sparked a fire and shattered windows in nearby apartment buildings. Now, the administration has said that flights are operating as normal as the international airport in the capital. According to the country's emergency ministry, a special laboratory had been set up at the scene to investigate the cause of the blast. A tropical storm is battering Vietnam. It has caused heavy flooding and is sparking warnings of landslides. As per the country's National Weather Center, some Hanoi districts recorded up to 10 inches of rain. Flooding has become more frequent in Hanoi. Now, this is because the drainage system is struggling to accommodate a rapidly growing population. Vietnam is prone to destructive storms and flooding. According to official statistics, at least 451 people have been killed last year due to natural disasters. Switzerland's glaciers are suffering their second worst melt rate this year. Now, these glaciers have lost more than 10% volume in 2 years. More than half of the glaciers at the Alps are in Switzerland. The temperature here is rising by around twice the global average due to climate change. Now, this year, low winter snowfall combined with an early start and late end to the summer melt season has further worsened the losses. Now, NASA astronaut Frank Rubio has finally returned to Earth, feeling the pull of the planet's gravity for the first time in more than 1 year. Rubio and 2 other crew members will come back in a replacement capsule that was sent up empty for the ride home. Rubio's stay set a new record for the longest a US astronaut has ever spent in microgravity. He also became the first American to log an entire calendar year in the orbit. Now, Rubio traveled to the space station on a Russian spacecraft as part of ride-sharing agreement between NASA and Russian space agency Roscosmos. The world's first food made from plastic waste is vanilla ice cream. Now, the ice cream is actually an art installation called Guilty Flavors by artist and designer Eleonora Ortolani. Now, the process, developed by scientists in Edinburgh, harnesses the metabolic power of bacteria and enzymes to behave as eco-friendly factories to digest polythene. Volkswagen said that it was hit by a major IT outage, causing production at the carmaker's namesake brand in Germany to come to a complete halt. Volkswagen Europe's top carmaker said that the whole group, which includes the Porsche, AG and Audi brands, was affected. While the cause of the outage is still being assessed, it has hinted at a system malfunction as opposed to a malware attack. Now, layoffs by Indian startups have surpassed the 30,000 mark since the beginning of 2022, following Baiju's announcement of a restructuring exercise this week that will affect over 4,000 employees. A report by moneycontrol.com suggests that 2022 to date, approximately 95 startups have laid off nearly 31,965 employees. Now, this comes even as the number of the layoffs has slowed down in the past few months, raising hopes that the bleak times are coming to an end.